Hey, I want to give you more exercise about how to factor out each polynomial, such as 28m to the fourth plus 14m to the third plus 8. So now let's take a look. We can take a look at the number first. So look at the coefficient. So we have a 28, 14, and 8. What will be the common factor on these numbers? Well, it's going to be, let's try 2. If I factor out the 2, I have a 14m to the fourth plus 20m to the third plus 4. Anything else? Well, since they're all even number, I can factor out another 2. So which means I have 2 times 2, which is 7m to the fourth plus 10m to the third plus 2. Okay, 2 times 2, we can write it as 4. Okay. So now let's take a look. Anything left from here that we can factor out? Well, let's look at the variable, which is the letters m. So they have m to the fourth, m to the third, but there's no m. So that means you can factor the m out. So maybe 4 is the only common factor that they have. Okay, here's another example. Okay, so now let's take a look. You can look at the letters first and the numbers later. The letter also called variables. So now take a look. We have m to the fifth, n to the third, and m to the fourth. So they don't have something that in common, right? So that means we don't need to factor the letter out. So now let's take a look at the number. Negative 18, don't forget the negative sign. Positive 3, negative 21, and positive 3. So all of these numbers, they have a common factor of 3. So you can factor the 3 out. I have negative 6, m to the fifth, plus, you already factor the 3 out, so you only have m left. I mean, actually it's 1 times n, but since it's times 1, so that means you don't need to write that. And then factor the 3 out, 21 divided by 3 is 7, and plus m to the fourth. Okay, another one would be negative 24x to the sixth minus 4 to the x to the fourth plus 12x to the third plus 4x squared. Okay, so for this one, you can pause the video and try to do it by yourself. So for me, you can either factor the letter first or factor the number first, either way. So for me, let's do the number first. We have a negative 24, negative 4, 12, and 4. What will be their common factor? Would be 4. They can all divide it by 4. If you don't know, you can just do what I did in the first example, which is you factor 2 out and then just times the second factor, right? Okay, now we can just see it right away. The common factor would be 4. So I have negative 24 divided by 4 is negative 6. And then negative 1, x to the fourth, plus 3 times x to the third, plus 1 times x squared. Again, 1 times x squared, you can just write it, just x squared. Okay, so for precaution, double check the letters, see if the number, which is the coefficient, see if they have any other common factor. Now we have negative 6, negative 1, 3, and 1. So they're relative prime to each other. So we are done. So now letters, which is variables, we have x to the sixth, s to the fourth, s to the third, and x squared. What do they have in common? X. But how many x do they have in common? Would be x squared, right? So that means we can factor out the x squared. So what left is x to the fourth minus 1, we can just write it. We don't need to write it. X to the 4th divided by x to the second, x squared, which is have x squared remain. 3 times x to the cube divided by x squared, we have x, and plus x squared divided by x squared is not equal to 0, it's equal to 1. Okay, so this is our final answer. Okay, let's do something that have two numbers, such as 13 PQR minus 5QP plus 5Q. Okay, again, you can do the letter first or the number first. Either way. So now let's take a look at the letter, which is variable. For the first term, we have PQR. The second one, we have a QP. The third one, we only have a Q. So what do they have in common? They all have Q. So we factor the Q out. What's left is 30 PR minus 5P plus 5. And now let's look at the coefficient, which is the number. So we have a 30, negative 5, and positive 5. What do they have in common is 5. So we factor the 5 out. We have a 6 PR minus negative 5 divided by 5. We have negative 1, which is just negative QP plus 1. Okay. So that's it for the extra common factor exercise. Let me know if you have other questions.